Mr. Speaker.
Order. Questions for oral answer. Mr. Patrick Tay.
Mr. Speaker, sir, may I have your permission to take question 1 and 2 together, please?
Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, our teaching staff have shouldered a heavy responsibility to ensure that our students can continue learning safely during this COVID-19 pandemic. Workload for teaching staff has increased as they are responsible for ensuring that students are educated about and comply with the safe management measures. Each time a confirmed case is notified, staff need to follow up on contact tracing and communications. When home-based learning was declared, teaching staff also needed to make the necessary arrangements with additional support for students who may not adjust as well to home-based learning. All these efforts are necessary to allow teaching and learning to continue despite the pandemic. To keep track of staff sentiments and well-being, MOE conducts dipstick polls, school visits by senior management, and engagement surveys. The Institutes of Higher Learnings also conduct surveys and staff engagements with leaders. MOE and the IHLs have put in place measures to address the concerns raised by staff on workload. At the system level, MOE has reprioritized initiatives and reduced schools' involvement in HQ work and pilots. Schools have also been given greater flexibility to pace the implementation of selected initiatives, including deferring implementation if it helps to spread out staff workload. For example, secondary schools and JCs were given the option to defer the implementation of blended learning to 2022 instead of Term 3 2021 as originally planned. At the school level, we recognize that ground practices may vary. We have called on school leaders to reprioritize school programs, establish clear expectations on teachers' availability and work hours, and encourage supervisors to check in with their officers regularly. For example, school leaders have been providing guidance on avoiding parent-staff communications after school operating hours except for urgent matters such as those involving the safety and well-being of students. This can minimize the blurring of lines between work and personal time. In line with the streamlined health protocols, ring-fencing policies and contact tracing processes in schools have now also been significantly simplified, and teachers' workload related to COVID-19 management is being reduced. Similarly, the IHLs have implemented various measures tailored to their institutions, such as reprioritization of work tasks to reduce workload and setting clearer expectations that staff need not reply to work emails after office hours unless there are exigencies. To support staff who need help, MOE provides free counseling services. In addition, MOE, Polytechnic and ITE staff who are public officers can access the whole of government counseling hotline. Staff in the autonomous universities have access to either in-house or external counseling services. Before COVID-19, about 50 staff from our school sought support from MOE's in-house counselors annually. The annual number has increased to about 80 since 2020. Similarly, the number of IHL teaching staff seeking counseling support has increased. We do not have more detailed data as information from all counseling sessions is kept confidential and staff are not required to report mental distress or psychiatric issues. We recognize that exceptional demands that COVID-19 has placed on our staff and have put in additional efforts to promote a positive and supporting work environment for staff well-being across schools and IHLs, such as organizing workshops covering stress management and self-care. As part of a new well-being initiative since September 2021, schools have nominated wellness ambassadors for staff to receive training on how to provide basic peer support and encourage their peers to seek help. Training has commenced in end October. Some IHLs are implementing similar initiatives. To support staff in implementing home-based learning effectively, MOE and IHLs have provided professional development courses and resources. Learning teams within and across schools have also allowed staff to collaborate and share good practices on the design and delivery of online lessons. The well-being of our staff is of paramount importance, and MOE and the IHLs will continue to strengthen our support for staff to help ensure their well-being.
Mr. Patrick Day.
Was reply and noted the sensitivity of some of this information. But I have three supplementary questions for Minister. Firstly, yes, we are aware and we thank for the various mitigation measures to help lighten the stresses and the mental distress of teachers as well as educators across our educational institutions. But first question is, what are the further concrete steps that MOE can take to reduce further pressures from various stakeholders, non-essential workload, and support better work-life harmony so that teachers and educators can also attend to their loved ones? Second supplementary question, can I suggest to Minister that school leaders, especially since they set the tone, to look after the well-being of teachers, staff, and educators in the operationalizing of MOE's policies and as well as meeting schools' expectations? And third supplementary question is, to overcome mental health and well-being issues, can I ask MOE HQ and educational institutions alike work closely with our teachers and, of course, teachers and education cluster of unions to better manage this issue on the ground, as we hear it's brewing. And in addition, also partnering with the community and building the right societal values, especially as we move and chart the way forward in the next normal.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank Mr. Patrick Day for his questions and, more importantly, for his concerns for the welfare and well-being of our teachers. Maybe I should say a couple of things to set the context as I answer the three SQs from Mr. Patrick Day. First, I think we should all thank our teachers and educators, because over the last 2 years, it has really been very tough on them. And we are one of the few systems in the entire world that has managed to keep our school going and to allow our students to continue learning with minimum disruptions during the last 2 years. So I really want to say a big thank you to all our teachers for going all out. Not many of us realize that in order to keep our school system going, the workload for our teachers have more than doubled. In order for us to switch seamlessly from physical schooling to home-based learning, our teachers need to spend a lot of time preparing more than 2 sets of lesson plans. One set of lesson plans for the school, the physical schooling, one set of lesson plans for the home-based learning, just in case we need to switch over seamlessly. And also, on top of that, to be able to take care of the higher needs students that will still need to return to the school during the home-based learning period. Now, on top of all this, the school leaders and the teachers also have to perform the role of contact tracing teams in case there are cases in the school. And we have to do this without additional manpower support. And we have seen the challenges that even MOH, together with the support of the SAF, how big a challenge this can be. So all the more, I'm deeply appreciative of the effort by our teachers. And over the course of the last 2 years, be it the vaccination program or the mental and social-emotional stresses experienced by our students and their families, many of these will culminate in their experiences in the school, which our teachers also have to manage. With that at the back of our mind, what can we do as a society to help our teachers manage? Because they are ultimately not only teachers, but they are also fellow Singaporeans. They also have families that they need to take care of. And I would like to perhaps answer the 3 SQs from Mr. Patrick Day in 3 parts. There are what are things that we can do in the short term, the things that we can do in the longer term, And there are things that we as a whole society can do together to better support our teachers. Because the fundamental belief is this: if our teachers are well taken care of, they will be able to take care of all our children well. But if our teachers are not well taken care of, if they are not in the best of condition, then it is also very difficult for us to expect them to take good care of our children, our students. Now, in the short term, as I've mentioned, we have adjusted various programs in order to lighten the workload of our teachers. So we have adjusted the schedule as to how we rolled out the new programs. And we have given the schools some of the flexibility to adjust the scheduling, for example, the implementation of their blended learning, and even the full subject-based banding rollout. We will have to make some adjustments in order to alleviate the workload for our teachers. The second thing that we can do in the short term is to use technology for us to scale up the lessons, especially for home-based learning. But while in the long term, this will help to lighten the workload of our teachers, in the short term, it actually requires our teacher to do more, because we have to switch over from the current physical schooling curriculum into the online curriculum. And many of our teachers will need to learn new skills. But our hope is that over the longer term, as we're able to leverage on technology to scale up the lesson preparation and even some of the class sizes, then we will be able to devote more time to the higher need students. Because overall, as a system, it's quite unrealistic for us to expect that we can double the amount of resources overnight. In order to focus more attention and bandwidth on the high need students, we will need to find other ways to scale up our curriculum teaching so that we can save some time and bandwidth on the other areas where we can. The third thing in the short term that we have done is actually to insert what we call surgical breaks into the term time, so that in case there is a spike in the number of cases where the workload is very high, we can give our teachers a slight break. An example of this is this year term 4, where we took one extra day to declare it as a school holiday after the PSLE marking. That one extra day would have given us a period of about 9 days continuously for some of our teachers to take a bit of the break and to spread out their load during the PSLE marking. So these are things that we'll continue to do. The fourth thing that we are doing is to make sure that when MOE communicates with our teachers, we do it systematically. And we know that this is a large system that operates with 50,000 educators, more than 500,000 students, and we try not to make too many changes too quickly. This allows time for the teachers and the school leadership team to make the necessary adjustments. Now, in the longer term, we will need to do much more to help our teachers cope. One is to use technology to scale up our teaching resources so that we can, as I've mentioned, apply the time more surgically to the higher need students. The second thing that we can do to better equip our teachers to manage this is to equip them with the skill sets to detect potential mental health issues with the students and with their fellow peers. So this, we are applying it starting from the NIE curriculum all the way through their professional development and continuation training. So these are things that we will do over the longer term. Over the longer term, I also would like to see our teachers systematically given a break or sabbatical whereby they can go out and recharge themselves. Not just to recharge themselves, but also for them to acquire new perspective, new skills, new connections to bring back to the school. That is my wish over the long term, and we will progressively roll this out. But finally, can I say something that to better support our teachers, we really need a whole of society approach. Let me say this. I think our teachers work very hard. They care a lot for our students. And I don't think our teachers are afraid to work hard. But in working hard, they must be given a sense of agency, that they are in control, that they are doing things with conviction. And that is important. And this is why I keep emphasizing that no matter how hard our teachers and school leaders work, they must feel that they are in control with a sense of agency. They can take charge of things. They can customize the curriculum according to the needs of their students, because every school have different profile of students, and no two children is similar. So we need to allow teachers and school leaders the autonomy to customize the programs according to their school needs, according to their students' needs. The second thing that I think I would say is that we as a whole of society must also help our teachers in a form of partnership. I give a very simple example. Our teachers care a lot. Many of our teachers even give their handphone number to their students just in case their students get into trouble outside the school hours. And I have heard many stories of our students sometimes calling the teachers in the middle of the night because they got kicked out of home because of family issues, and our teachers respond. This is the extent to which our teachers go to take care of our students beyond the curriculum time in school. But in giving out their handphone number to the families and the students, we also hope that the families will not abuse the trust. It is one thing for a child to call up a student, it's one thing for the child to call up the teacher at midnight to say that he's in trouble. It's another thing for the parent to call up the teacher at midnight to ask whether tomorrow the child has spelling and should wear a red or blue t-shirt. If the child doesn't remember, so be it. It's part of his learning experience. We as parents don't need to overly protect our child and children and deprive them of the learning experience. And I think we need to establish this clear understanding as expectations of parents and society, and we ourselves gets heightened. A lot of our expectations are projected onto our teachers as well. That's why we need to strengthen this partnership. This is the reason why I want to strengthen the partnership between the schools and the parent support group. Not so much just for the parent support group to support the schools, but also for the parent support groups to support one another in helping one another set the correct expectations so that we can have a strong partnership between parents and teachers in bringing up our children. Last but not least, I would say this. In a COVID situation, there are many changes. We may not be perfect, and we will not be perfect. All of us can pull together and help one another overcome some of the imperfections that we are facing. Sometimes we have to make changes. Sometimes we have to make changes at the last minute because of the circumstances. But all of us can pull together and help one another. For example, some families prefer HBL, some families prefer physical schooling. There will not be a situation where we can meet the needs of everyone. But we can all help one another, that when we do not get the things that we want for ourselves or our families, let us not burden the teachers with the demands the excessive demands on the teachers to try and fulfill our own personal needs. That, I think, will go a long way to helping our teachers cope as well. One of the common feedback from our teachers is that most of our parents are very supportive of our teachers, but there's a small minority of parents that place a very huge demand on our teachers, and it's perhaps unfair for the teachers if they are unable to spend their time and take care of all the students because of the high demands placed on them by a very small group of parents. So we really want to hope and work together with the parents. We also want to work together with the society, including the unions, so that we can better support our teachers in an all-rounded way. Thank you.
If I can remind members, perhaps let's confine our supplementary questions to just 2. And if I can request our office holders to keep the responses short. Ms. Carrie Tan.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Min Chan, for sharing about this short-term, long-term perspective of supporting teachers. I think our government has always been very good with adopting, technology enablement to support all our civil and public servants. And we've always done very good on that front. But Min Chan has also acknowledged that a lot of the stress that the teachers feel come from students reaching out to them, things that happen outside of the classroom. So I would like to add on to the perspective of our support to teachers on the human support element. And I'd like to ask Minister whether any of the support plans for MOE rendered to teachers can involve none of them requiring to be further trained. I think when we try to support someone, but we require them to go through further training to provide peer support, again, it adds on to a load on their bandwidth and stress, right? Number two, I'm not sure whether this was covered and I missed it. Is there currently any cost subsidies that teachers can have access to when they need to see external counselors or psychologists to deal with their stress or anxiety levels, right? And number three, in line with the the perspective about rendering human support, right? Whether MOE will consider potentially in the long term to develop a team of allied educator supporters or educator carers to provide a listening ear, pastoral care to our teachers so that they don't have to take the weight and the burden of all these difficult situations that they're faced with, whether it's their students' mental health, their own mental health, and they have someone to talk to. And lastly, the question is about whether MOE is effecting any kind of mindset change within the system and amongst school leadership and principals to change their mindset towards the notion that, hard work is what it is, and teachers just need to suck it up. Because I think we've seen interviews of teachers that they feel like they don't have a safe space to go to. So thank you. Hope Minister can clarify on this. Thanks.
Mr. Speaker, sir, maybe I take the 4 SQs in turn. First, on the issue of training, we do want to equip our teachers to pick up the signs of distress that may happen to their students and also to their fellow peers. So to the extent that we can, we will want to do this as part of their professional training. But having said that, I think one of the things about counselings and services is this. Be it students or teachers, they all need someone that they can trust in order for them to open up to the counsellors or to the peer to share. And without this trusting relationship, it's not a function of how many counsellors that we have. Even if we have the counsellors, be it para-counsellors or full-time counsellors, we need this trust relationship to establish, which is why from secondary schools and above, we try as much as possible for the first layer to have the peer support for each of them to be able to identify their own issues and also to look out for their peers. And then we escalate it to either the family or the teachers, and then we escalate it next level to the full-time counsellors. So we need to triage this. Second question on the subsidy, I don't think the cost should be an issue. As I mentioned in my reply, there are services available to all our teachers as part of the public service as well. Yes, we are trying to increase the number of allied educators and also the para-counsellors, but as I've mentioned, it's not just the numbers that's important, it's also the trust relationship that needs time to build up that's important for the students and the teachers to open up. And definitely we want to promote a safe environment for people to come forward and seek help, which is why just now in my reply I mentioned that we don't actively go and track the number of people who seek help because we don't want to give the people an impression or the wrong impression that if people seek help, they become a part of the statistics and so forth. And finally, if I may just make a pitch on this issue for people to come forward and seek help, this be it the students or be it the teachers. We tend to look at mental health issue as a black or white issue where, I'm mentally okay or I'm mentally not okay. I think maybe we need to update our concept. Let's look at it as a kind of a fitness level. We all grow in our fitness level with a bit of training, with a bit of training. And today, I might not be able to run as fast or as far. But with a bit of training, tomorrow I can run further and faster. And mental health is also like that. Today, I might not be able to cope with some things, but tomorrow, with a bit of training, stretching, I might be able to cope a bit more. And that's how we grow as individuals. And if we move away from the binary concept of mental health, then I think it will encourage people to come forward and say that we are much more prepared to come forward and seek help if we think that we are unable to accomplish a task. There's no shame in this. Once we overcome that level of fitness and we become even fitter, we can then take on more stresses, and that's how we grow as a person. So I think with that perspective and that mindset in all school leaders, teachers, and students, we will be able to better encourage our people to seek help when they need to. And it's just to stretch ourselves a bit more, to train ourselves up so that we can do better tomorrow than what we have done today.
I seem to recall that I mentioned there should be only 2 SQs, but perhaps to keep it simple for members, can we just have 1 SQ per person?